Build compelling real-time apps quickly and scale them globally with the PubNub real-time network. Only PubNub delivers the core building blocks needed for any real-time application. Find out for yourself by signing up for free today. Visit pubnub.com. Welcome to This Week in Location-Based Marketing, the most trusted podcast dedicated to the new business of location. It is time for This Week in Location-Based Marketing. This is episode number 145, recorded live August 30th, 2013. My name, Rob Woodbridge from Untether.tv, located in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. With me, as always, from Toronto, Ontario, Canada.
There you go. Asif Khan from the Location-Based Marketing Association.
Yes, and for those of you who don't know what this is, say you're new, say you haven't been here for the other 144 episodes, this is the place you come to once a week, consistently, for 145 consecutive weeks, to find out what is happening in the location marketing world, the contextualized marketing world, some of the little mobile marketing world jammed into there, business, insight, analysis, all jammed into 1 hour, sometimes even less than an hour. We got guests. Today we got Nora Young from CBC, host of Spark and author of The Virtual Self. We've got Chuck Martin's Mobile Minute talking about, hey, what is the biggest threat to your mobile and location business? Well, you're going to have to listen. We got our App of the Week, which is Co Everywhere, once also known as, or previously known as, Block Avenue. 6 insane stories, our resource of the week, all coming up. That's why you come here each and every week. And the only thing we ask of you out there in listening or viewing land, I'm talking to you right now, is you go wherever you found this thing. I don't care where it is. There's a star rating system. It could be out of 5. It could be out of 10. And a little commenting system. Wherever you got this podcast for, wherever you are looking at this from, please go and review this. We would love it if you just gave us a little star reviewing. We would appreciate it. It is our currency. It's what we get paid in to be able to bring you these stories. So what are you waiting for? Go do it. Please, 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 please. All right, Asif, what's going on with the Location-Based Marketing Association, buddy? You got some stuff.
We always got stuff, and it's September is right around the corner now.
Cannot believe it.
There's plenty going on, and a bunch of things. I mean, September the 10th in particular has been on my calendar for a little while, and that is the launch of the newest LBMA chapter in Dallas. Going to be a phenomenal evening, fantastic panel. AT&T, Millennial Media, Michael's Stores, 7-Eleven, American Airlines, all these guys are on the panel. It's going to be crazy. So yeah, and I was just looking at some of the attendees coming out, like JCPenney and Neiman Marcus, and all these guys are going to be in the crowd, and agency people, and yeah, excited about that. So if you're in Dallas, or you can get to Dallas, September the 10th, in the evening, 6 to 9 p.m. at the Marketing Arm. We'd like to see you there. And then the following week, I'm going to be in Cologne for an LBMA event as part of Mobile M Days, or Mobile Days as they call it over there. So that'll be interesting to see what's going on in that part of the world. And then the week after that, I'm not going to be there, but the Atlanta chapter is having an event on the 25th, and that's sponsored by Digital Element. So get out there if you're in Atlanta on the 25th and see what's going on.
And that's just a fraction of what
that's
September
just a fraction. Like. Yeah.
Well, I don't envy you for this month, and we will continue to do these wherever Asif lands. You know, Wi-Fi dependent, lighting dependent. You'll get the content. You know, it just might be choppy. Yeah. How's that? Yeah. So a big month for the LBMA. And if you can make it out to those, do it. And if you want to know what else they're doing, just go to thelbma.com/events, and you will find out what is going on. Boy, and it's just a little bit going on. Just a little bit. All right. Well, you know, we do this every week. A mobile minute. I take the best mobile minute from the previous week and I jam it into this because it's so relevant to you. And this is Chuck Martin talking about the disconnect between location marketing and the biggest threat to your mobile strategy. This is it. So watch this and you will learn, and then you'll be surprised as to what you think, what the biggest threat is. So here, Chuck Martin with our mobile minute. Welcome back to another Mobile Minute. Despite our best efforts, sometimes we can't marry the mobile world with the terrestrial world at all, can we? You just had a recent experience, Chuck. Why don't you talk about it?
Yeah, I was in Dallas, which I fly through quite a lot, and I was staying at the Hilton near the airport. And I use Foursquare. I'm a diehard Foursquare check-in person. So I checked in, of course. And this time I got a deal. It said, hey, you want a free buffet breakfast? And I had the time. It was 6:15 in the morning. And the shuttle to the airport wasn't leaving until 6:30. So I said, free buffet breakfast. What the heck? So I take a quick drive, walk over to the restaurant. I show them the coupon on my phone. And the server says, what's that? I said, it's a coupon for a free restaurant. She said, well, we don't take that kind of coupon. I don't know what that is. So she goes to see the manager. This went for quite a while. And the manager comes out and says, well, you have to go to the front desk to get a real coupon. I said, well, this says it's a coupon right here. And your hotel actually did this coupon. And I said, have you heard of Foursquare? She said, oh, yes. I said, well, here's the Foursquare coupon. She said, well, take it to the front desk and they'll give you a real coupon. Anyway, it went on like this till about 6:29. My shuttle was leaving at 6:30, so I skipped breakfast that day.
Oh, Chuck, it sounds like this is a human problem. Like, eliminate humans and we don't have a problem. What can companies do to make sure that their humans know what to do with this kind of stuff?
Yeah, this actually predates mobile. It's a real challenge because the staffs at companies, at retail, especially in servers and restaurants, there's a lot of turnover, and to keep that training level high, and to let them know that you've got a particular project running right now, or a campaign that says you get free deals. You basically, what I see happening is the mobile consumer is actually retraining the sales force more effectively than a lot of retailers are training them themselves.
So, humans, that is the biggest threat to your mobile strategy.
Agreed.
Who would have thought? If we just get rid of all the humans? And by humans, I mean,
we don't need a mobile strategy, I guess.
Exactly. You know what? Robots are smarter, but that is, it's astounding how often that happens. And we've all had these experiences where you go into Starbucks and you say, look, I'm the mayor. Remember those days? I'm the mayor. And they look at you like you're crazy. No, you're not. Get this crazy guy out. The mayor. This is not the mayor. I've seen the mayor. So it helps along with it. And Chuck made his great observation is that, in the quick service industry, in the restaurant industry, turnover is so high. So you've got to be able to somehow get this into your employees' heads that this is an important facet of your business and they have to know what this means. So thank you for Chuck for doing that. Thanks for allowing us to put that on this show, to bring it to you. All right, we have great news. We've been following these guys for quite some time. We've been kept up to date by Tony quite a bit around what these guys are doing. And our app of the week is a special app, we think. We really appreciate the fact that Tony has kept us up to date on this stuff. This is a company that was formerly known as Block Avenue, has become whom and what?
They become Co-Everywhere, or CO Everywhere is how that's spelled. So Tony Longo, Dan Adams, the two of the founders of this company. It was about understanding neighborhoods and places and activity within those neighborhoods, and primarily as a kind of an online play initially. And now they've launched this mobile app called Co-Everywhere, and it basically aggregates content from Foursquare and Yelp and Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and everything, kind of pulls it together. But one of the cool things about this is kind of like Banjo in some ways. It's really about following the conversation and the content around a particular event or location. And in this particular case, you can actually, within the app, you can draw your own geofence, so to speak. And then it'll pull together all the content that's coming from these sources that I just mentioned, that's happening right now within that geofence that you just drew. So I like it. I like the design of it as well in terms of the UI. It's pretty cool. What are your thoughts, Rob?
Yeah, I was playing with it over the last couple of days when it came out, and what I do love about it is that unique interface where I can say, like, I want to geofence the mall down the street. I want to geofence a restaurant over here, basically by drawing a circle around it and pull in all the tweets. And I was doing it over Yankee Stadium because I was, trying to get the buzz of what's going on inside of Yankee and around Yankee Stadium and around the Yankee fan. And I like this, I think that you can really do well with this by tying in traditional media. So you've got all of the, the nervous system and Twitter and Facebook and all these other posts and Yelp and everything, and you jam it in. But it'd be great if I get local news stories as well, like my local newspaper for that neighborhood, any news story or any crime reporting or anything like that. I think that they have a really great opportunity to have an amazing platform to give you a snapshot of that area. And, they use it as an example is that, if you want to go someplace on a vacation, circle that place and listen to what's going on in there at this point and time. And I think they've stumbled onto something here that is of tremendous value. I'd say much more value even than what they were doing with Block Avenue. I think easier to scale.
I agree with that. And I think that, I like the news angle that you're talking about too, because I think in fact, if I think about the opportunity for a platform like Go Everywhere or Banjo in terms of monetization, I think there's a lot that can be done by connecting this to something like a Patch, something like a local community news conglomerate that has all these little papers and stuff. A News Corp, up here in Toronto. Star, which has all these kind of community newspapers everywhere. So I think things like that become really interesting from a content, perspective in terms of, just adding more value as far as sources and inputs into the platform. So congrats to the guys, Tony, Dan.
Yeah.
Go Everywhere. Well done.
And if you're interested, just go to coeverywhere.com, coeverywhere.com. I believe this is only available on iOS at this moment. But worth a download if you're interested in staying on top of what's going on in a specific location. But and this is what I love about it is that Tony was tenacious in getting in touch with us and made sure that we knew what was going on all the way through. And so do what Tony does if you've got a product like this that is of interest to us or you think would be of interest to us. We'll tell you if it's not. But congratulations to these guys and all the best and continued success. coeverywhere.com. All right, back to the regularly scheduled show. That was our app. So Go Everywhere. Let's jump into the news. We got 6 great stories. We got Nora Young in between talking about the quantified self and location. Awesome conversation I had with Nora. But our first story, we have to start with Foursquare. We have to start with Foursquare. They are coming out. Now, this is in limited release, only on Android right now. But I'm going to assume that this is going to be rolled out because they made a huge deal. Something called proactive recommendations. So this is about finding places that you never knew existed, finding recommendations of places that you never knew existed without launching the app and without checking in. So there's no action required of you. You're in a city, you land in a city, it'll tell you the 3 best places to go. You're in a restaurant, it'll tell you the best meal in theory. And that is what they call proactive recommendations. What do you think of this move by Foursquare, Sif?
Well...
No, okay, perfect.
I'm mixed on this. So
okay.
I do like the idea of proactive recommendations. I think the de-emphasizing the check-in is something that Foursquare had to do. So I'll start by saying that's a good move to kind of shift away from that because, as I've said on the show many times, I still use Foursquare. And I do check in at places, but for me, it's about a historical log of where I've been and what I've done there, not anything about deals or discounts or any of that kind of stuff. So when we talk about proactive recommendations, it depends on how much granularity I think in control of the types of recommendations you're going to get because and the frequency of those recommendations. Because in some respects, this is like AT&T shop alerts, right? Except that it's in an app, right? It's like an SMS push notification platform in some ways that's just sending you stuff when you happen to be in an area based on a geofence. But at least with the AT&T and the O2 and all those kinds of programs, when you sign up and you opt in, you have control to say, I only care about communications from these specific brands or these categories of products and services. So I don't know. It could end up being spammy, depending on the frequency and all of that, right? And the fit, quite frankly, the relevance to that particular user.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they wrote about this in their blog at blog.foursquare.com. And they talked about it. They referenced this ill-fated service that they were going to launch a couple of years ago called Radar.
Yes.
And you and I both love this. And I think the failing of Foursquare here, let's be quite honest, is, and this just sounds like a broken record, is that they haven't done what Twitter's done with their infrastructure. They've still allowed so many people to hug off of the data and not require them to come into the app. So I don't spend any time. In fact, I've told you this, I don't have Foursquare installed on my phone, yet I still manage to check into Foursquare, and I still manage to leverage Foursquare's data in an app called Moves, right, that allow me to at least track where I've been without getting into Foursquare, right? So I don't use the app. So this kind of proactive recommendation doesn't mean anything to me, right? Because I'm not in the app. Their goal should be to get me to download that app and use that app on a regular basis, daily if at best. And doing this isn't going to do it. But Radar was that thing. Radar was that thing that I said, like, oh, you know what? I'm going to go to Chicago. I need to remember this restaurant. They have to get me inside of the application right now. They're not doing it. So I don't think that this works for the people that are not involved in using Foursquare. Now, I've talked to a lot of people. They freaking love Foursquare. And I scratch my head and I say, okay. Yeah, I don't get it.
Yeah, and the other thing that one of the features that I liked that we haven't heard anything about from Foursquare, or at least I haven't in a while, is they used to have this kind of online to app driver where, like, the save to Foursquare button, where you're reading an article somewhere about a restaurant on a website somewhere, and you could just hit a little button and then it would push that into your Foursquare app, and when you happen to be near that restaurant, you would get the notification.
Yep.
See, that's where recommendations and notifications becomes really interesting, because it's stuff I've already identified.
Yes.
That I'm interested in, right? So I'd like to see some of that come back into the platform, or some emphasis if it's still there. I don't even know if it's still around. I haven't seen it on any websites anywhere. So,
well, no, and that's what I mean. That was the input for Radar. So you would be like, you'd be on an airplane, like you spend a lot of time in the airplane, and you'd read the magazine, and there would be a profile of a restaurant in Chicago, and you basically tap your phone, scan a QR code, whatever it would be, but it would save it to your Foursquare favorites, and then it would remind you the next time you're in there. And I think that so it had the combination of input and then the Radar, which was basically proximity. And and they said that the problem was that the battery was a huge drain, and so this only decreases basically 0.7% per hour as a result of being on. But it compounds it, because I have Moves and I have Bluetooth and I have this and I have that, and all of a sudden my battery lasts like 4 hours instead of 7 or 8. And so anyway, Foursquare trying to turn around what they're doing, turning over a new leaf in this thing called proactive recommendations. Not unique, and certainly Yelp could turn this on, as you say, in a matter of a moment, and Google could do the same thing, and Google will, because they're documenting actually all of the menus, like in Manhattan, of restaurant menus. So you can't tell me that they're not going to proactively push that out to you. So yeah, this is still an uphill battle. The other side of this, I heard, last piece on Foursquare, is that Yahoo kind of sniffing around.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of talk going on about strategic investment in Foursquare, right?
Yeah.
So, which basically means a precursor to an acquisition.
It means we're haggling over value right now.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Well,
we'll see.
Okay,
right?
well,
we did say Marissa was still buying stuff, right? So,
this is a big one. So, Foursquare trying to turn over a new leaf. Maybe they'll be a part of Yahoo. That's a good way to turn over a new leaf. All right, Asif, our second story. I want you to watch this video because it explains everything. This is an NFC Happy Table in Singapore. Take a look at this. It's about 1 minute and 45 seconds, and it explains everything. And we have not much to say about this other than super freaking awesome. I wish I was a kid.
To adults, McDonald's is just a restaurant. To kids,
this is my playground.
To adults, this is just a table. To kids,
this is my cute little tiny house. Or maybe a treasure island.
It's whatever their imagination wants it to be. So, to please our smallest customers, we reimagined our restaurants in a big way. Happy Meal presents the Happy Table. Step up to any table in McDonald's. Hold your NFC mobile over it. And voila, the table becomes McDonald's Land. And your mobile becomes a fun little card. Zip around McDonald's Land to collect burgers, harvest apple pies, and fight baddies. all to help Ronald organize a party for the folks of McDonald Land. Careful though, don't drive off the table. Here's the science behind the magic. Near-field communication plus Skeletric's design. We programmed NFC smart tags to work like different parts of a track, much like Skeletric's tracks. The NFC tags are then stuck to the underside of the tables, so when you hold your mobile over it, the ordinary-looking table magically turns into McDonald Land, with each tag telling you where to drive your little cart. And during the campaign, we rewarded the fastest track times with apple pies, sundaes, and other treats. The success of the first game has led to the development of new games, including Whack-A-Mole and Battleship. The Happy Table by Happy Meal, making mealtime a happier time.
What can you say? See if that just it fills me with joy.
It does, right?
I want to I want to play with it.
We all know McDonald's, at its best is about, Happy Meals and kids and toys, and it's all about getting people in there with fun and gaming, right? And this just takes it to a whole nother level. So, I love the innovation or the use of technology. I mean, it's not really innovation; it's just taking what's out there and applying it in unique ways to do things, that just get people connected. And what I like about this, and I talk about this all the time, whether it's the stuff that we talked about a few months ago with the E-Mart guys flying around ships with Wi-Fi, running QR codes with sunlight and getting people. This is the same kind of thing. It's about human emotional connections. It's not about technology. It's about it's valuable and relevant because you're connecting with people at an emotional level, and it's driving that. And so, the NFC piece is it's just you can stick it on any table and create a game, right? And create an app that can do this kind of stuff. So I think this is something that's a big start for them, and I could see this rolling out everywhere that McDonald's operates.
Why not? It ends up being fairly cheap. Like the technology to activate it is very cheap, and then you're just building the interactive, immersive experience that brings you closer to your brand, to the brand. And man,
yeah,
I'm not gonna...
and kudos to DDB, the agency, who came up with this idea for
brilliant.
them. Just brilliant stuff.
So our third story, Asif Ubimo raising a couple of $1 million. They're a location-based mobile audience targeting company at ubimo.com. Why is this so significant?
It's significant because of similar conversations that we've had in the last few weeks about Place IQ and Placed. It's significant because what's happening is the advertising industry is realizing that location is extremely relevant, extremely valuable. And they're demanding that there be better metrics, better ways to target, better ways to show that the ad targeting works and deserves to be a premium ad dollar that's being put on this kind of targeting. And so it's platforms like Ubimo that are going to make that happen. So this is about pulling data together, but it's about measuring effectiveness of that ad targeting data and making sure that that those agencies and those media buyers are actually able to do something effective and to prove to the client that this stuff works. So that's why I like this kind of stuff. At its core, it does a lot of stuff. It's wide in its scope, but for me, that's the value. It's about better ad targeting and performance metrics,
and not so much about geofencing, right? As we talk about geofencing is maybe I think a lot of people have struggled with geofencing because you're only taking into consideration proximity to a location or that you're in the location, and this takes into consideration making sure that you have the right audience, context, and timing. So they take venue information, ongoing events at the location, weather, demographic data, type of location, whether it's an office or residential location or commercial. It allows clients to set distances, so you can adjust the distances, and it's unique enough. I like the weather aspect. I like it all, and these guys are well on their way with $2 million. And
I'm not sure what the secret sauce is because I understand there's a patent pending around this, and they're calling this translocal targeting. Is the terminology that they're using. So I got to dig into that a bit more and kind of see what the patent specifically is. But congrats to the team over there, to Rami and Gilad and all those guys as well.
Yeah, $2 million. Maybe trans, because it's like transmedia, translocal, big, small. But we all know there's money in local. And you know what? Surprisingly enough, our fifth story, you know what? A lot of people are waking up to the realization that there's money in local, in location.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so Ubimo, that's Ubimo, UBIMO.com. If you're interested in finding a little bit more about those guys, raising $2 million. Good job.
All right,
first three done. We're going to jump into Nora Young. For those of you who do not know Nora Young, you are probably not Canadian. You probably do not listen to the CBC. She is a host of a very popular technology show called Spark. She is kind of, the way she describes what she does with Spark is she sits on the fringe of the fringe, and she brings in some of the most unique stories, tells it in a very Canadian way. And it's where I first heard about Raspberry Pi. It's where I first heard about a lot of the technology that has come out. This is fringe stuff that she thinks that over the next, as she says, next 2 to 5 years will kind of emerge to the center. And she's been doing this for 7 years. It's an amazing, amazing, amazing show. You can get this through iTunes or any podcast software. It's called Spark, and it's look for CBC, and you will not be sorry about this. It's a great podcast, great show. She's also the author of The Virtual Self, and it talks about how these devices that we carry around are going to impact the way that we collect data about ourselves, right? And the way that it's being used in a number of a variety of ways. And we're going to be talking a little bit about how it, location plays into this. But we're really going to be talking about the quantified self. It's fascinating. This is a long episode that I did with her. This will be available this coming Thursday, 6th of September. So if you're after the 6th of September, this is up there on untether.tv. You can hear the whole episode. But I implore you, you might as well go buy her book. It's worth it. Really worth it. So here,
just awesome speaker, and just super well respected up here in Canada for sure.
Great mind. So here is Nora Young talking about the quantified self. Throughout your research for the book, and from what you've seen since the book was published, obviously, as you said earlier, there's been a pull from mobile, right? During the internet days, it was a push. You had to convince somebody that they needed a website. You had to convince somebody that they needed to get online. But with mobile, we kind of woke up one day and there were 5 billion connected devices around the world, and smartphones accelerating, and everybody experimenting. So obviously, this has had a huge influence on the way that we use these to self-track and to create our virtual self. How big is this phenomenon? How far does this stretch? Is this a North American thing, or are we seeing this around the world?
Well, I mean, one of the things that I think is the most interesting in the book is uncovering research about using cell phone data in particular in the developing world. And so in this case, we're generally not talking about smartphones, we're talking about ordinary feature phones. But there's some really interesting research that's been done by people like Nathan Eagle and people out of MIT into the idea of if you can anonymize the data about where people are, what are some of the things that you can learn? And so they've used it to do things like track, and not even track, but predict where malaria outbreaks are going to happen based on the movement of anonymized cell phone data. And this is a feature of how quickly cell phones have been spread through the developing world. So you take a country like Kenya, for instance, and cell phone penetration rates amongst people, I think between the ages of about 15 and 60, are very close to 100%. So you're talking about suddenly this location-based data being potentially very useful precisely in context where more formal information might not be available. Or there has been incredible use of cell phone data in Haiti after the crisis there to track things like the spread of cholera and where people are going and that kind of thing. And obviously, it raises huge questions about privacy. Sorry, there's a plane going overhead. Huge questions about privacy and how you protect people's data and whether anonymous data can really truly be anonymous, or whether there are risk factors there. And I think the research suggests that there are risk factors there. But I think you're looking at something that might be, in fact, globally transformative once you start to think about what you can use this information for.
And I mean, we're seeing this, from a commercial standpoint. A lot of people are trying to take the location data and use it to sell goods, or to geofence or to to get trends, traffic trends, and people trends, and when you look at what happens in developing nations versus what we're doing in North America, do you I don't know, do you feel kind of embarrassed, like I do, about how we're kind of superficially trying to use this data to line our pockets versus what they're actually doing in developing nations? From that, is that tracking the spread of malaria, to also education and training and learning where people would never have learned before. Do you feel kind of superficial being here?
I'm very excited about the more sort of altruistic things, but I don't know if I feel. I think as long as those commercial relationships are transparent and on the up and up, there isn't I don't see a problem with it. And I think the really interesting space, what I think from a commercial point of view, is when you look at things like Waze. If you look at the potential to actually combine a useful service to individuals with something that potentially could make money for the people who design it, with something that actually has a social benefit, that I think is a really, really interesting space. Because what I think is going to happen culturally is that as people start to track their data more, they're going to start to become a little bit more proprietary about their data, right? Once you realize, I can learn all these interesting things about how I read and my exercise patterns and how much I weigh and what I eat and all this other kind of stuff, I think people are going to start to think about if it's worth something to me, what is it worth to other people? What is our data collectively worth? And I think the really great space is if you can think, and there are a lot of really interesting examples of this, of taking something that has an individual value, a commercial value, and a social value. And that, I think, is really going to be the sweet spot as people start to think about the value that their data has. And that, I think, has huge potential from a commercial point of view.
Do you think that, I'm one of these guys that when they ask me for my postal code at IKEA, I always say, okay, so what's in it for me, right?
Yes.
I'm going to give you some data that's very valuable to you, which is my postal code. It might be just one of the 1 billion you collect every year. But I constantly think about it, right? I think, well, my data, that information is worth something. So how do you think that this plays out when a lot of this stuff is collected anonymously through the carriers, through the browsers that you use, through the location tools that you use? I use an app called Moves. I rave about this app because while this tracks steps, Moves tracks places and locations and steps as well. But I use it to remember where I've been. But that data sits somewhere in Sweden in the cloud. And at some point it's going to be valuable to them. And I constantly think, am I going to be able to make a living off of my data at some point?
Yeah.
Do you think that'll happen?
Well, there are people who are arguing for that kind of thing. Jaron Lanier's latest book, what the heck is it called? Who Owns the Future, I think it's called. He's arguing exactly that maybe it's the case that privacy's gone out the window, but maybe we can rejig the system so that we have a series of micropayments, for instance, that can allow people, if not to make a living, at least can supplement their living doing that. So if people are making that kind of argument, my feeling about it is that, there's nothing more inherently problematic in gathering data in exchange for a service than in being a television broadcaster and saying, okay, I agree to provide you programming, and the quid pro quo is you agree to, to be exposed to advertising, right? There's an implicit relationship there. And I think as long as those relationships are transparent, it's not problematic. The challenge, I think, is that, and I'll talk about this in the book, is that we're not yet in that world where we have transparent, clear rules about who's doing what with the data and so on. And partly that, I think there are a number of reasons for that. I think one reason that that's happening is because it's sort of in the nature of startup culture that you think, okay, let's think of the great idea and try and get users, and then we'll figure out how to monetize it afterwards. And if you don't know what you want to do with the data, then it's pretty hard to have a transparent relationship about the data. I think that's one problem. I think another problem is just, and one of the people I talked to in the book, Ian Kerr, talks about this, is that once we're relying only on the standard form contract, the I agree thing, that's not really sufficient. We need to recalibrate that relationship and what the nature of those contracts can be and should be. But then the other piece of the puzzle, I think, too, is that it's almost like a math problem, is that I don't think we quite even know what the math implications of all this stuff is when you start to put together not just one data set, when you start to put together 18, 25, 1,000 data sets, what is anonymous and what is not. And there's been some really interesting research that's been done precisely about this. I mean, you probably follow the Netflix example of where they had this thing where it was a contest to improve the algorithms to offer people movie recommendations, and they released this huge anonymous, in quotes, data set of users, and researchers at the University of Texas were able to pair that with another data set and identify not everybody, but they were able to identify some people. So I think there are multiple layers that we have to get sorted out here. But I think the potential, first of all, the genie's out of the bottle, as it were, right? It's pretty hard to sort of roll things back and say, hey, we're not going to do mobile, we're not going to track anything anymore because we're doing it. But also, I think we have to think more clearly about it, because that information can be very useful and it can make our communities run better. It can help us as individuals too. So I think we're just not. It's like I said before, the situation is changing so quickly that the framework around it in some ways I think hasn't quite caught up with that.
That is Nora Young from CBC and author of The Virtual Self. Do us a favor, go and check it out. If you need a link to it, it's available on Amazon, it's available in iTunes, it's available on hardcover, and it's available in paperback. But if you really want to support us, you can go to untether.tv, look up the show notes for this. This is episode number 145. There will be a link, and it is an affiliate link to Amazon, to her book. It's available on Kindle. It's available on anything. Please go and support this. It's a great book if you're interested in the space. Nora Young.
There you go.
All right, on to story number 6. I like these guys. California company called Xirrus. Heard of them?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And, the great company within the sort of wireless infrastructure hardware world. And the story this week that I pulled out is they've teamed up with the and they installed a bunch of their Xirrus wireless arrays at the Wentworth Club for the BMW PGA Championship that happened in May. So this is coming out after the fact kind of case study, but really cool use of technology. We talk a lot on the show about indoor location and Wi-Fi in that context, and that comes up over and over again. But we don't talk about it very often in a outdoor event like a golf tournament, and it requires a different type of equipment. Xirrus is one of the leaders in that kind of environment. But it's what they did with it that's really interesting. So they set up this Wi-Fi network basically outdoors, and if you were there as a fan, as an attendee to watch this tournament, basically there's digital screens all over the place. They're streaming live content. They're pushing content to your mobile devices over this Wi-Fi network. You can there's an app that you can track where your favorite players are on the course, and from a location perspective. I mean, a lot of stuff but it comes down to just leveraging this network, right? So, once you got a network in place, you can do a lot of things with it in terms of how you deliver content. And that's what I really liked about what they're doing here, is that combination of, mobile devices, digital screens, and all of it is, content being delivered across this network.
That's what I love about it. And, I've talked about the Barclays Center in Brooklyn and the Brooklyn Nets and the way they did it. And up here in Canada, there was a company called Kangaroo TV for a long time that they've changed their name, and they were bought by the owner of the Miami Dolphins because of this, because they did outdoor stadium Wi-Fi, and they followed, the Le Mans, basically car racing in Europe, and they offered the same thing. They had a separate device that did something similar like to this. Like the Miami Dolphins still do this. But you can't not. Enabling viewers and enabling people that are at live events is part of it. Their heads are down already. You might as well give them something to do in that space. Yeah. And if they're not doing it with you, they're being distracted by somebody else. Somebody else might geofence the PGA Tour location, and you're going to be losing revenue. So
absolutely,
this is good. And I think Xirrus, I've had an opportunity to speak at a number of events with Xirrus, and these guys are rock solid technology, and they're not just outdoors; they're indoor, outdoors, and they can be found at Xirrus. That's Xirrus.com. Xirrus.com.
Yeah, and just one other point too that I really liked. I was rereading the notes here while you were talking, and so one of the things that they did on the outside.
I'm really glad you were paying attention to what I was saying there.
Yeah, I heard it all, Rob. I heard it all. But they on the mobile app side, they're capturing user preferences as well, and then they're actually using that data in real time to tailor the content and the sponsorship and the advertising that they're that's part of of how they market this thing. So, I mean, just so much all coming together in a single platform. I love it.
Well, it's true. When you've opened up yourself like you've paid money to go to an event like this. Like, we've all been there. We go to a concert, a rock concert, and we come back with a $48 T-shirt, right, that we're never going to wear, but yet we bought it anyways, right? Why? Mm-hmm. Because they understand that the euphoria of the event opens up the wallet. And that's what we're saying, is that the ability to capture that, a portion of that, target a portion of that through this kind of technology, through Wi-Fi, simple Wi-Fi, but enabling it through this, I think, is amazing, 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 amazing. That's why I love Xirrus. We should get them on.
Great company.
Xirrus, sponsor this damn podcast, would you?
Get on it.
Yeah, they're done. All right. Our fifth story, this is what we were talking about a little bit before. JDS Uniphase has, Asif, get ready, sit down, everybody. Pull over your car if you're listening to the podcast. Put the weight down if you're in the gym. Put the cleavers down if you're out in the gardening. Are you ready for this? This is huge news. JDS Uniphase. Remember JDSU? JDS, huge employment base in my city, Ottawa, until the implosion. They launched something called Location Insight Services, and guess what? Location is going to be a big freaking business.
There you go. And carriers should wake up to it.
Carriers need to wake up to it. They say it's going to be an $11 billion business by 2017. My goodness, where have we been? Asif? What have we been doing?
I don't know.
What? This is a big company at the forefront of technology, and this is supposed to be news, man?
It's supposed to be news. And, it's at the end of the day, they have to justify the acquisition. So they made an acquisition. JDS Uniphase made an acquisition back in February, March, or something along those lines.
It took them this long to justify that
they
acquisition.
Bought a company called Ariso, Arieso. And so it's that technology. That was a location-based software company that was working with telecom networks and carriers anyways. And so they've taken that and they've basically kind of tweaked it a little bit and rebranded it as this thing that they're calling Location Insight Services. And all I can get from this really is that they're trying to distinguish location-based services and location insight services as two separate and distinct things. They're trying to create a category. This is what big companies do. Big companies go out there and they say, all right, that LBS thing, we missed the boat on that, apparently. So we're going to create something new. It's called Location Insight Services.
Which, by the way, if you say it, phonetically, that's lies.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Lies, yeah.
And so this is how they describe it. And I'm reading this straight from the thing here.
Okay.
A location insight service is a more advanced form of the existing real-time location-based services for individual subscribers. While LBS targets specific individuals to collect data, LIS never opts for subscriber-specific data.
Oh, so generic content.
Oh.
I get it.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, this is basically aggregation of anonymous content to do what? Something that is based on, this. Wow. Yes. So what we want to do is we want to aggregate as much content as possible without a face, is what they're saying.
Yes. Because, we don't need to know who people are.
No.
We don't need to know that stuff. So, this seems to me, a justification of a purchase and a trying to make a category when there isn't one. This is how I look at this. I'm just being...
Yeah. Well, they don't sponsor the show. I would change my tune if they sponsored the show.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't. This is something I don't understand. Is that? But you know what? I think that this is indicative of where we are in this. And I said it about when we were talking about Nora, is that this fringe piece is that, I don't think that people understand the context to which we talk about this every day. We are living in this every day. We see the change that happens in every day in business. And when you are so big or so obtuse or so completely alienated from reality, which happens with large companies, it happens with, hubris, entrepreneurs and CEOs with a little bit of hubris that think they know everything. Ultimately, this is what happens, is that you kind of put this out and you're like, and people look up at this and say, gee, where have you been for 4 years?
Yeah.
Where have you been? You get your head out of the sand, right? And that's what's interesting about this. And they need help, buddy. They need help. Location, insight, services, lies. JDSU, lies. Yes.
Love it. All right.
Big industry. All right, our last story, buddy. This is big. This is big. This is 7-Eleven investing in a company called Belly. We've talked about Belly often. They've contributed to a round with what is it? Andreessen Horowitz. This is a $12.1 million round with these guys. That's not even the big story in your idea. Like, this is a big story. 7-Eleven investing in a company with Andreessen Horowitz. What is the big story here?
Well, so for those who aren't familiar with Belly, because maybe you haven't listened to this show for a while or at all, and this is your first time. So Belly is a mobile location loyalty app. Initially, it was targeted at small businesses, retailers, and such, and the 1 to 2 location restaurant chain or coffee shops and all that kind of stuff. The digital version of the punch card, right? Effectively, is what Belly was. In a much more sophisticated way. They're really cool app. And I met Logan Lahive, the CEO, a few times at shows. Great guy. Now, $12.1 million, 7-Eleven stepping up to get involved in this. Why I think this is significant? It's because I hearken this back to what we did with Mondelez Kraft Foods and the whole Mobile Futures program. Brands are waking up and realizing that they can't just wait for their agencies to come and pitch them great ideas. They got to go out and find the technology themselves that's going to make them, move forward and, be front and center and be leading edge and, innovating at the forefront, on their own. And so, with Mondelez, that's an organization where bought and said, hey, look, we want to go and find the best stuff and it's going to be the best fit for Oreo and Tried It and all these brands, and we're going to bring it in. And we're going to do it. We're going to run these pilots, and we're going to make it work. Awesome. 7-Eleven's, in a different way, is saying the same thing. Look, we're creating a venture arm. We've got a venture arm. Who knew, right? We've got a venture arm, and we're going out, and we're going to invest in companies like this. And what I like about this is it's not just we're going to use this technology. We're going to own a piece of this technology, and we're going to see how this technology can, benefit 7-Eleven beyond 7-Eleven, right? So. And I think you're going to see brands start to do that, where they realize that, yes, we're a distribution channel. Yes, we're a customer for Belly in this context. That's great. And it's a good starting point. And it's good for Belly and it's good for 7-Eleven. But what 7-Eleven and other organizations are realizing is if we take a piece of this thing, if we own this thing, potentially we can, sort of diversify our business beyond the convenience store businesses. We can start to have, to make revenue in other areas, so to speak, right? So, if Belly can work with 7-Eleven and it's all its competitors and other retailers, why shouldn't 7-Eleven benefit from that?
Yeah, I completely agree. And digital assets and data, part of this whole thing, and it's going to be huge. What I love about this is that if you think about this in the big picture from an investment side, is that Andreessen Horowitz, this is a Series B. Andreessen put $10 million into it for Series A. Series B is 12.1, split with 7-Eleven. And I think that now there's an opportunity for other brands. They should be looking at this, partnering with guys like Andreessen Horowitz. These guys are the most active investors in the Bay Area. These guys are the most active investors in mobile. They're investing in companies that are going to influence retail for quite some time to come. Why not partner with these guys? They're doing all the due diligence and the vetting of it. And basically, there's opportunity for other brands to invest into these things, and it's fascinating. And I can't believe that 7-Eleven has a venture arm. Where the hell has that been?
Yeah, and I think we're just going to see more and more of this, right? I mean, in some cases, it's retailers have labs where they test stuff, and cases, they actually make investments. I mean, and we're seeing like BMW has a venture arm, and we've seen some of the great projects that they've been involved in, like Embark, for example, that Apple just acquired that we talked about the other. That was a BMW investment.
Yeah.
Right. So I think, expect more and more brands to step up like this. We at the LBMA, we're talking to brands right now, in the same vein that we were working with Mondelez, to say, let's go out, let's run an innovation program, let's find the right startups that are the right fit for your brand, your company, your stores, whatever, and let's facilitate that. So, that's a service that we can do at the LBMA, and I think that we're going to see more brands step up and take that initiative.
Love it. 7-Eleven. 7-Eleven investing in Belly. You can go to bellycard.com if you want some more information about that. And investing with Andreessen Horowitz, $12.1 million.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right, those are the 6 stories. That is our Mobile Minute, our app of the week, which is Everywhere. Our guest, which is Nora Young. We got one last piece of business. Here's our resource of the week, Asif, the top 100 geospatial influencers on the planet. Let's just add our name, shall we? Or are we not geeky enough to be on this list?
I'm going to say I'm not geeky enough to be on this list.
I'm okay with
but it's cool. It's just something I came across this week when I was like poking around, and the geospatial world is it's part of our ecosystem at the LBMA. It's not really the marketing part of it, but it's the big data, geo data world. And if you're in that world or you're concerned about that world, this is a list of people that you should be connected to and talking to. So a great little resource here. And if you are part of the world and you're not on this list, maybe you should add yourself to the list. It's just a Google Doc, so get in there and see what you can do.
That's right. Yeah. Pretty simple. And obviously we'll have this listed at thelbma.com/research, right?
Yes, we will.
And it's also, you'll be able to find it on untethered.tv. And remember, this is episode number 145. And for those of you counting, that's 145 consecutive weeks.
Never missed one yet.
Never missed one. All right, well, that's the show. We got the 6 stories done. We got the resource done. We got everything done, man.
That's it.
And I know we had to toss a bunch even. So for you out there who are listening, if you have a story, if you want something to be brought into this, we would love to hear it. Just like Tony did with Everywhere when he was transitioning from Block Avenue. I think we actually raked Block Avenue through the coals on one of our episodes. And he came back and said, yeah, don't worry, we're doing something different. Now, Tony, we like what you're doing. We like what you're doing. So if you have something like that, if you'd like us to feature you guys, if you have an app that you think belongs in our app feature, if you want to be a guest, for goodness sake, reach out. It's the only way that we'll know about you if we haven't heard about you yet. So reach out, Rob at untethered.tv or Asif at thelbma.com, and we'll do it. We'll do it.
And if you really like this show,
yes,
throw us a few bucks, sponsor the thing, right? Get
bucks.
on there. We're looking for sponsors right now. So
a couple of bucks. You rich people out there, just send a couple of bucks. Like, what is it going to kill you to sponsor a couple of hacks like us doing this, right? Maybe.
Yes.
Who knows? Yes. I heard this location industry is going to be big.
It's going to be big. Maybe JDS Uniphase can step it up.
Well, maybe. Maybe not after this show.
No.
I think we've lost a couple of more sponsors after this show. Yeah.
Lies.
Yeah. Lies. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for listening. Wherever you are, whatever you might be doing, we appreciate you bringing us into your ears each and every week, and we love it. So please, leave us a good review, leave us a comment, send us an email, interact with us, do whatever it takes to reach us. We would love to hear from you. And we'll see you next week for episode number 146.